Shimasu. Today I'll read Shokushu number 12, Key Development Exercises. The experience of mind and body unification when we are in a quiet state is easy. However, true unification is not disturbing mind and body unification even when we are in motion. The key exercises are training us to maintain mind and body unification constantly, whether we are awake or sleeping. By applying them to everything in our daily life, we can perform to the best of our ability in all things. Well, good evening, good morning. Nice to see you all. I hope everybody's doing very well. You know, we have, I'm part of a dojo on Oahu, Lokahi Dojo, and we've been practicing together outside since November of 2020. Yeah, 2020. And so I know many dojos in Europe, and even there are some others in Hawaii that are practicing now. So I wanted to talk about key development exercises and how how to maybe look at them, how to consider them as part of our training. And maybe provide a kind of a bigger picture to it all. We warm up, right, using these exercises, doing stretching. And when we go to the park, we don't do the stretching because of the, the grass and the dirt. So we do Toitsu Taiso, which is a 3-minute exercise to start. Well, that's what I mean by warm up. But these exercises are not only for warming up. They're not only warm-up exercises. In fact, that is not their main purpose. Yes, they help get the circulation going. There's a good reason that we do them at the beginning of class. But I want you to consider, and I know of course there's many people here who already know this, that these are primarily, as the Kisein says, and as the name says, these are for key development. So all of our movements in class have this purpose behind them. So when we're stretching, you can think of stretching in particular. If we're stretching in a way that creates unnecessary tension in our body, this may be, I'm not a trainer or a physical therapist, it may be an effective way to stretch. That part I'm not totally convinced of. And yet, it may not be the best way to understand key development. And if you think of it, stretching for Toi Sensei involved a movement, which, traditionally, stretching was static, right? But this is moving while stretching. Many of the movements in that. And also our other practices, 3-minute exercise, our Hitori Waza, these movements that we practice, oneness rhythm Taiso as well. These are all designed to help us understand key development. In other words, to practice the 4 basic principles and to make that practice a bigger part of our lives. So yesterday, I stopped the class after 3 minutes. We did our 3-minute exercise, and we focused for a while on the movement itself. The class, we spend most of the time in our class in the park doing Joe and weapons practice. It's about probably 95% of the time we're doing that. And yet, sometimes we need to remind everyone not to do the stretching, for example, or the Hitori Waza in a mindless way. Just, okay, I'm just doing this to get through, to warm up, and then I'll get serious when we practice the arts or the weapons. This is a big mistake. We want to be always practicing, right? This is, you've heard Curtis Sensei talk about this many, many times. This is Shugyo practice, when we are always practicing. In class, out of class, awake, asleep, as the Kisei says. That is Shugyo. And key development exercises are there to help us understand this. To make the principles, the 4 basic principles, a bigger part of our life. And to always be in a state of mindfulness in our movement, in our interactions, throughout our daily life. And this is what that key saying is really talking about. And as we progress, even if you're not, sometimes we have seminars and we go to different places, and I see people doing the Nikkyo Hitori Waza by this way, pressing. Right? And so this movement may or it may not, I don't know, strengthen this wrist. It may make you be able to resist Nikkyo better. But there's nowhere in our practice, nothing in our practice, where Toi Sensei says, you must resist. So, to me, this is a big mistake. We do the movement this way, extending ki, open and aware, with keeping one point. These are the things that matter when we're doing this. Not trying to strengthen some part of our body, toughen some part of our body, so that we can withstand someone else's art. Okay, so, and maybe for some people this was explained or taught differently. This is how I learned. This is what Nalawai Sensei and Curtis Sensei and Shainer Sensei, my teachers, always taught me. And to demonstrate, and this is what I do in class, I might have a student, using this same example, create this kind of pressure and then give them a key test. And typically they don't do too well. You see? So, what is our purpose here? To be one with the universe. Right? To experience universal mind. And the kind of practice where you're trying to improve your ability to resist is going against that, against the possibility of understanding universal mind. Something to consider while we sit today. A little change from our previous talks. And I'm sure some of you will have some comments about this. We can hear those at the end after we do our sitting. Let's start with key breathing, and then we'll continue from there. Sitting up straight. Okay. I hope that was nice for everyone. So we're talking about key development exercises and how it relates to what we're doing here and our practice in general. Now's the time if you have a comment you'd like to make, question, anything related to that subject or to the practice. Please go ahead. I cannot see everybody, so just speak up if you'd like to.
Aloha. Good morning.
Hello. Go ahead, yes.
During the meditation,
Hi.
what came to me, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
During the meditation, what came to me was the phrase, you can only win when there is no war. And to me, that meant like you can only win when there is no struggle. And so you can only win when you've accepted what is, when you're just aware of what is and you accept all that is. And so I wonder if that's similar to with these practices, that when we do these practices physically in our body, so it's a concept in our mind of being able to let go and being able to let go of the struggle. So there's no struggle. But so that's one thing to think of in our mind, but it's another thing to actually be able to physically do it in our bodies, on our planet, and in connecting with other people. And so is that part of why we do these physical, exercises in the dojo?
Well, great question. Thank you, Priya, for that. It's a lot there, a lot to unpack. So I'll do my best here. When when we come to this practice, we come with assumptions, preconceptions, right? And that goes for whether we are just doing an entirely sitting practice or Aikido practice, Ki Aikido practice. We come with it with a certain idea, as you said. It's a certain, we have an idea of how it may go and what may happen. And the reason we're doing, I mean, this was, of course, Toi Sensei and his teachers saw this, is that to be able to to have like this physical component, this part that involves movement, along with the contemplative practice of sitting is extremely useful. In other words, the physical movement part can complement the sitting part. And I think with your question, that's where you're going here. We may feel, we call this a martial art. And martial, right, if you've ever looked up this word, refers to war. So, but Aikido is not an art of war, right? It is, it may have come and developed from old sword, Budo and samurai and all of this kind of things, and some judo in there and different elements. And yet it emphasizes, at least Ki Aikido does, it emphasizes this idea that you're mentioning, this idea that we have to let go of the struggle in order to be one with the universe. And the ultimate goal for all of us is to be one with the universe. So when we're doing these exercises, we have to recognize those preconceptions, those ideas that we bring with us. Sometimes we may think that in order to develop, I have to be strong in the traditional sense. In other words, I have to, if someone is not doing correctly, I have to show them by standing there and not moving. I was at a seminar once, years ago, and with Curtis Sensei, and I was his otomo. And I knew I knew he wanted me to demonstrate to this person that they weren't doing the art correctly. But we were doing Shihonage. I don't know if you're familiar with this art. It's the art where your arm comes up here and then you go down. And I was the uke. And so once you get to a certain point, it can be very dangerous for the uke to just stand there, to not go with the movement. I had trained enough to understand that, so I wasn't resisting this person, even though the person was forcing, right? There were other parts in the art where, yes, you extend ki and the art stops. But it's very easy for us to misunderstand. We see the sensei do that, and the person that's trying to do the art can't move with the sensei because they're extending ki so strongly. This is different than physically resisting an art. This would take quite a while to maybe explain, but it's all part of this kind of what we come to see about letting go, about training itself. That it's not what we think. That the struggle is not about overcoming our, monkey mind, thinking all the time, or it is about letting go the part that wants to have its way, right? So if we can do that, then monkey mind just gets tired. It's like an old shoe; it just gets worn out, right? And this is what happens to the ego. It's kind of just gets get tired, and we don't give it so much energy and attention. And the key development exercises, and I said earlier that Shugyo, when we start doing it in everything in our life, we start to see the ego, the small, the selfish mind in everything in our life, then we can stop feeding it. And that's when the stuff really starts to take hold, this practice. So I hope that that sort of answers your question there. The physical part is really, really helpful. I think for me, being able to move, being able to interact with a partner rather than just sit by myself, I think it's just so beneficial to understanding our relationship in the world, right? Just being with a partner on the mat. So, yeah. Thank you very much, Priya.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, everyone.
Oh, I know you.
Just a little comment and reflection of this topic. This exercise it seems so simple, so routine, but I think it's a good reminder of why we train to start with, and it's a foundation of everything. Because just like the example you were talking about, Nikio, if we do it all the time this way, mindlessly, and be strong and be tough, we train our mind to be resistant, to resist everything we do. And it's opposite from being one with the universe. And that's just the starting point. So like Peter was talking about that struggle, we train our minds to continue to struggle. Just so hard to let go of that, being tough, being strong. So I think, everything we do, we have to remind ourselves. I remind myself, doing this exercise to maybe just open my mind to think about infinity, to think about, a bigger picture. I think that might help. It's a constant reminder. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that comment, Celine. Yeah, it reminds me of the story of the two wolves, right? Curtis Sensei has mentioned this several times in these Zoom classes. And which wolf we feed is the one that gets stronger, right? And so, on the one hand, we're hoping to be one with the universe through this marvelous practice, and on the other hand, we often feed the other wolf, right? The wolf that leads us away from that. The one that the fighting mind, that the struggling wolf that Priya was talking about. So yeah, I mean, Nalawai Sensei used to say we're always moving in some direction, right? And so this is our choice, of course. This is like the choice to keep one point or not. Which direction do we want to move in? The direction of resistance or the direction of unification, of oneness? Yeah. And so, of course, and everything we're doing in life, again, back to Shugyo, everything we're doing in life can remind us of this simple choice. Thank you for that comment. Wonderful. And I think we're past our time here, so I'd like to thank you all for your support and for spending this time together. We'll see you all very soon. Domo arigatou gozaimashita.